What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the GSN Sports Network podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, and we're back again with Sobo. Sobo, how you doing, man? It's been a while. We
How are
got to
you,
check
sir?
in. I've been doing good, man. It's just a blessing to have you here with us today. Masters Week. Everyone knows what time it is. And what better time for you to make a return to the GSN podcast other than Masters Week? How you been, man?
I've been good. I've been real good. As you well know, we talk about this off and on. I think we've been doing this 3-4 years in a row, and then we try to sprinkle a couple of the other majors in. But this was the one that we always really dig hard to get to. Right? We like talking about it, and I know you're pretty in tune with golf, and it's I've said it 100 times, man. I tell friends all the time, this is the best time of the year. You got so much going on. The NCAA championship just finished the other night. You got the Masters this week. You got NHL playoffs. You got the Tigers who went 2-1 against the old Yanks this week. You got NBA playoffs. But most importantly, it's the first major. Nothing like it. Fired up.
There's really nothing like it. And they say it's the granddaddy of them all, and they're talking about the Rose Bowl, right? But I'm talking about golf season. This is the granddaddy of them all when it comes to golf season. And what better way to really kick off the spring equinox, which is all those sports you just mentioned colliding in unison with one another, than to have Masters Week really, bring spring into our lives in a big way. So it's it's a great pool. It's obviously one of those times where you have live golf and PGA, the PGA Tour colliding, and be it as it may. But I mean, there's always fireworks when that happens, and we always got something to say about it whenever it happens. Sobo, I know I do, and I know you've
Yeah.
had your gripes with live as well, and it's collide. I don't know. I thought they were going to combine forces. I thought I heard that in the news, but maybe I was just hearing stuff. What happened
Yeah,
with that?
it's I don't know where they are. I think I voiced my opinion a couple of years ago on your show with my purest thought process, and I wasn't a fan. I don't know if it's sustaining. I know that some of those guys want to come back. I think there's 10 or 12 guys from Live playing this week, of which, hey, without further ado, I can tell you that Kopka's on our picks in a pretty big pool that I'm in, with another friend, and you got DeChambeau, Patrick Reed, the villain.
The
He
villain.
will be there. I heard a little bit on the radio. As you know, this, like we just talked about. I don't want to belabor it. I'm on the listen to it on the radio. I'm watching the Golf Channel, just listening, and the experience I had last year. I can't believe 1 year ago today I was down there for a practice round, and coincidentally enough, a real good friend of mine flew out today, and he's coming back tomorrow, and it's been on the bucket list. And I can only tell everybody, like I've said in the last couple of years, somehow, some way, you got to figure out a way. There's nothing like it. What they do, how they do it, the cost that's associated with it, keeping it reasonable for the fans, no trash, no phones. I had to leave my phone in the car last year. They will confiscate the phone. It's quiet. It's people are dressed up. Some guys are dressed with button downs, and some women have dresses, and it's almost like the Kentucky Derby of golf, but it's not. I mean, it's an incredible, remarkable uh, place to be, and like you just spoke, it's spring. What's better than spring at Augusta? The Masters.
I mean, it doesn't feel like spring where we're at, but I mean, we're gonna say it's spring. I know that's what it says on the calendar, but you
Yeah.
go outside, it don't feel like spring. It snowed yesterday. So
Yep.
what the hell? What the hell's going on here?
But the tournament itself this week, it starts tomorrow morning, 7:34. I was just looking at some tee times. I'm trying to follow some of the guys that we took, and you know the pools and just the different ways people get involved. It's kind of like the bracket, right? Everybody's kind of you tie yourself into one or two brackets just because it's there. I like to say that the NCAA tournament, I told a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, I'm almost beginning to think if you win the national title these days, you've done yourself a pretty good job. You win 6 games against 6 different teams, whether they're elite or Cinderella or whatever it is. And the tournament starting tomorrow morning is the same way. Yeah, guys are going to pick the chalk. You got Scheffler, you got McIlroy, you got Xander, you got Colin Morikawa, Kopka. The 4 guys we took. Um, you know, we normally go 3 chalk and 1 dog, and my underdog, our underdog, believe it or not, we like him is Min Hoo Lee.
He's
Uh,
been hot. He
yeah,
just won that tournament a couple weeks ago at Bay Hill, didn't he?
I don't know that he did, but I know that I just looked it up last year. He finished tied 22, shot 300 the last day. And he's young. And, last year we had another name I threw in the hat we looked at was Aberg. Ludwig. This kid, I picked him last year, and I think he finished second. So in the grand scheme of things, you just got to look at there's a few things, and I like I said, I listen to the Golf Channel and stuff, and I found a couple of stats that were very interesting. The par fives there, you got to really play the par fives strong because they're all every par five they say is birdieable, but that's really not the case in today's world because you see a lot of golf courses built target golf. You don't have that traditional Donald Ross look that you have down in Augusta and um, or a Pinehurst or wherever. You've got to be savvy with your irons, and you got to be able to know where to hit the ball. I heard on the radio the other day. You don't want a 30-footer. Unless it's a 30-footer uphill, because you'll take the 30-footer uphill over a 12 or 15-footer downhill
Oh,
because
absolutely.
20 you may end up 20 feet away from the hole. You know what I mean? So it's just you got to be very articulate and the guy I think we really like though, and he's feels like he's been the bridesmaid or he's finished a lot of top fives, top tens in the majors. Colin Morikawa. I think
Yeah.
his time is due. So Minhu was a little bit of a sleeper pick for us, and like Colin, gotta like Rory. We grabbed Rory. I mean, coming out of that Players Championship, he won that. This is the only major he hasn't won. Um, and Kopka, Brooks is a big game hunter, and he he just he thrives on these majors, and he's going to be there. He'll be a top 10 or whatever you have in terms of where he finishes, and Alistair McKenzie down there, who did Augusta, is a traditionalist. The greens and things of that nature. I talked a little bit about Donald Ross. These guys were old school, don't move ground, and you better know where to hit the golf ball. And as we talked about over the years, is they started tiger proofing it. It had to get longer. They had to do some different things to make it, you know, I guess competitive for Tiger to go out there instead of shooting 20 under, they wanted him to shoot 14.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you see them some of these finishes, even in majors, he'd be 8, 9, sometimes even 10 strokes ahead of the next guy in second place. And he's like, these guys, these architects are like, we got to make these courses harder because
Yeah.
they're following close by, and that's kind of how it's been since
Yeah,
Tiger's more or less stepped
yeah.
away from the game as we know it. Not
And
entirely, but all these guys are hitting further now. Equipment's getting better. Technology's getting better, so they got to do
And
it.
when Jones and Alistair McKenzie did it, that wasn't in the book, many moons ago before you and my time and so forth. And what you just said is so spot on. Is today these guys are going into the tailor-made tent or the tailor-made trailer or the Titleist trailer or whatever it is, and they tell these guys, "Hey, John, I want a 10 and a 58-degree wedge, bend it a little bit or this way or that way." They know where they're hitting it, how well they're hitting it. You think there was a track man back in 1980?
Absolutely not.
Right?
We got them
And
on
I
every
mean,
hole now.
and if you really look at these players, they're athletes. And everybody's like, oh, well, they're not. Do you think they don't do what Palmer and Nicholas did 40 years ago? Go in and have a scotch on the rocks and a cigarette. You know what I mean? They're banging balls until 7:45. I saw somebody left the range the other night at 7:45 at night. Damn near dark, right? So their game is so good, and they know that the guy next to him is just as good. Not that the guys back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s weren't, or even the 90s, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, they are going to play, and they know the tradition
Yeah, and
that this tournament is
The bar
about.
was set at a different height back then too. So that's kind of the bar moved. I'd say it moved up since then. By no means does that put they're in a different bracket. It's just like when you talk about Larry Bird and LeBron James, that era. Larry Bird has even said it's a completely different game nowadays, and that's kind of translated into a lot of different sports as far as changing and elevating, I'd say, as the athleticism is concerned. But yeah, it's crazy how much they can fine tune. They go into the trailer, say basically give me whatever I want or whatever I need, and if I'm opening my face, maybe close my face and my driver a little bit, or tweak this, put a wrench on it, and
So
they can tweak it based on how they're swinging.
you know, it truly is remarkable. Even if you go to a regular tour event like the Rocket or Inverness, or if there's something in Chicago and you go over to see a tournament, I think they play the BMW over there or whatever it is. Watching these guys and what they do and what they eat and drink on the golf course. None of them, they're not, unless you're John Daly, you're drinking a Diet Coke. But everybody else, they put those energy tablets in their water, or you'll see them pull a banana out, or peanut butter and jellies, or whatever the case may be, because they need the energy to get around. And that golf course is a monster to walk. And that's something that I tell people: if you go, don't settle for just walking 5 or 6 holes and sitting somewhere or whatever. The first time I went in 1999, I got it on behind the bar. In '99, when I went, I walked the whole golf course. We were supposed to go to a club car event that night. We got there at 8 o'clock, and we were the last car out of the lot at 8:15. I skipped everything else. We walked that place probably 2 or 3 times. Yeah, you're tired, but you got to understand the undulation and the greens, and how they take. There's so many little pockets that you could be 200 feet below the clubhouse or whatever, and you look up and the wind's blowing, right? They see that kind of stuff, and those are the things that we don't, unless CBS puts it, they show the pines or whatever. But my point is, they are so dialed in terms of half of these guys I just named off. You look at your top 25 or 40 guys, they have a team. They have a team. They have a nutritionist with them. They have a trainer with them. They have a caddy with them. They have a sports psychologist with them. They have, potentially an agent. And then they probably have a handler with them. And the handler obviously is the one who says, okay, all right, Brooks, we got to go to the Golf Channel 10 at 7. We're going to CBS at 7:15. Going to hit balls at 7:30. They have their day so dialed in, and they're so dialed in when they get there. It's pretty cool to see.
Wow, that's something that you don't really think about, the behind the scenes stuff of, their itinerary person, or say, hey man, I'm really getting in my own head right now. I just cannot, I can't close the face on the golf club, or I can't keep my head down, or whatever it is. And maybe they even go to the range. They might even bring the psychologist to the range with them, because it's like, this could be all in my head. Yeah, it's mechanics related, but it's all stemming from what's going on up here.
So
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 that's
I
interesting.
so last night or yesterday I saw Aberg was doing his interview, and this is the stuff that we're talking about. The question was, well, how do you feel this year? Because last year was his rookie year, so
Right.
he's playing with house money and playing really well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first words out of his mouth is at least I know where I park, and at least I know where I can get my coffee. That's how discombobulated they can be if it's your first show, right?
Oh man, and
If
then they go
it's your
out. They got to
first
go
show,
play
you're
golf.
talking.
They can't find the coffee. They got to go play golf.
Well, but that's what I say about the handler or the person who is going to help manage their day, because those are the small things. And we went through that whole deal with Scotty Scheffler last year.
That's right. That's right. Let me ask you
You
about
know, I,
Will Zalatoris. I got to ask you about Will Zalatoris before I.
somebody said he looked good today.
He did look good today, and his
Was that
worst
you?
finish. Yeah, it was me. Yeah, he looked good in the par three tournament. He hit a long putt. He was hitting some good shots, dialed in, pin hunting, throwing darts out there. And an important stat that came across my desk today that I thought was interesting is his worst finish at a Masters is tied for ninth.
Yeah.
So you're talking about top 10 finishes in every Masters berth that he has. I mean, he's got to be due, as it are many players that are in the field. A lot of these guys are due, quote unquote, for a green jacket. We know that, but I think you got to put Will up there at least as a dark horse, if he's not
Yeah,
prominently.
I don't know what he's done this year. I mean, the other guy we kind of looked at, and I was telling somebody today, DeChambeau, he's turned his program around. He was kind of a jackwagon there the first 3 or 4 years he was out. And then I think somebody pulled him aside and said, look, man, you're 28, 26 years old. You better figure this out and start treating people. Now, all the stuff he's doing with YouTube. And that's another piece of the puzzle, that these guys are influencers where, Jack, Arnie, Lee, and all these other guys, the Tom Kites, the Freddie Couples, you can even go into the couples, David Toms, all these guys that I grew up kind of watching, they're still good, but they didn't have what we have in terms of the media access and being able to do a YouTube or jump on Instagram or whatever the case may be. And you know, Bryson has done a lot of good for the game of golf in the last 2 years, and some of the interviews that I've seen him come through with on what he wants to do with the game because of what the game's given him is basically saying, look, I want to bring the guy who's never picked up a golf club into the arena to play, or at least try, and then I want to be able to get the young kids. And I think you and I talked about this a couple of years ago about where the game of golf was heading, and I told you spot on that in 3 or 4 years the game is going to be fine. And I was just looking at tee times before we jumped on. There's just so many good players out there.
Yeah, there
You
is.
know,
I was looking
I
at the tee
mean,
times too, and there's some good ones,
you
early
got
ones.
what about Shoffley?
Yeah,
Shoffley's another one. He's a fan. Everybody likes him.
Xander. Yeah.
Cantley, Patrick Cantley's one.
Oh yeah. Yep. Keegan Bradley hit an ace today too, and so did Tom Hoagie. I was watching that. Those were
Bogey's another one.
Hoagie is a sneaky one. He
You
can
know,
sneak
he
up there and play against the best of them
he's
any day.
he's not afraid to stir it up, and that's why this game in this tournament is pretty good, and it's so cliche-ish in terms of it doesn't start till the back nine on Sunday, and there's a lot of truth to that. You're gonna see somebody come out fast tomorrow. Now, if it's somebody that's big, a John Rahm or Zalatoris or one of the top 20 guys, you just, they may go wire to wire. Matter of fact, that's a good stat to see if anybody. I don't know how many guys have gone wire to wire. Scotty may have, Scheffler might have 2 years ago. I don't recall, but um, you weather-wise, I think the weather's going to be pretty good from what I heard. They had storms down that way last, I think, Monday, because we flew home from spring break and they were saying there were some storms down there. But it sounds like, the next couple of days are going to be good.
Okay. Well, I know the tradition for Augusta, which kind of just seems to be the standing tradition, I guess we can call it that, is firm and fast. We know that we can basically expect a winning score right around the 9 under to 12 under range. I guess if it's going to be a little bit, if these greens are receptive, we know that these greens are tough, but they looked receptive based on the par three, and everything was spinning. And you're dealing with some slope and whatnot too. But if these greens are this receptive, I think you can see some low scores,
So you,
even
you
coming
and
out the
you
first day.
know you know about the grounds, right? The grounds there's the air, there's the air that comes out underneath the green. So when it gets wet, they can dry them.
Oh, really? They have that technology?
Yep.
Incredible! I did not know that.
Yeah, you'd have to look it up. I don't know the exacts, but I heard it on the radio as well, where you can they'll have it tip top shape. You wouldn't even know they got 2 inches of rain unless they don't play because of the course itself.
Okay. What about JT? Let me ask you about JT. What do
He's
you
a
think
good.
about JT?
We were looking at him. I mean, again, there's just too many guys.
There is too
JT's,
many guys. And
yeah.
see, that's the thing. If you mix live, and I was going to ask you this too, how do you track? And I guess you could just see how they're placing in their own live tournaments. And, you can get Dustin Johnson, which came up with a live win. I've seen it come across my, uh, you know, feed here. And I saw DJ had a win. So he's in there too. But how do you track these guys when the format is somewhat different? You got a different aura, a different environment with live. How do you track that and translate that when you're comparing and
Uh,
contrasting
you know,
stats?
I who knows? I'm telling you, man. I've watched 10 minutes of Live in 3 years. I can't tell you. I don't know who their number
No.
one guy is. And personally, I know these guys are starting to want to come back, and they're seeing the writing on the wall that it wasn't going to sustain, and it's not. And I'm not. If you like it, good for you, because you're still following the game of golf and you're still following the people you like. It's like this. For years I used to go down to 4 or 5 Red Wing games, 7 or 8 Tiger games. Went to a Pistons game against the Mavs back in December because Matthew wanted to go and he likes Kyrie, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to follow your player. That's just whatever. That's just going to be it, right?
Right.
Um, Whether your team or your player is playing bad, if Justin Thomas is having a bad year, guess what? You're still rooting for him,
That's
right?
true. That's true. You don't
If
want to be a
Jordan Spieth's
bandwagoner.
having a
You don't want
bad
to be a
year,
bandwagoner.
if Spieth's having a bad year, you want Spieth to come into one of these events and win a marquee game, marquee tournament, or whatever the case may be.
He's
The
another one.
tour changed the rating of the events too, which like Bay Hill's I forget how they worded it, higher elevated. The one over in Charlotte's a big tournament for these guys on the FedEx points.
Yeah, for
They
FedEx
bump the
points. Yeah.
earnings, but I just I just think there's too many guys, and we stuck with, like I said, Kopka. I really like. He's a big game hunter. I think he was top 10 last year, top 15 in all of them. You got Rory. He's never. I don't. He's due to win one of these. Morikawa and Lee, and everybody else that we mentioned are guys that anybody can win this freaking thing. That's the problem. It's kind of like, if we knew the weather was going to be 75 and sunny tomorrow, we'd be playing golf. If we knew, one of these guys was going to play really good 4 days, you'd somehow find a way to Vegas and put it $100 on them at 80 to 1 or whatever they are, and have a nice little payday. But we don't know. Um, Somebody can have a bad week. A big name can have a bad week, miss a cut, and they're done and they're deflated. Um, They all want
Right.
they all want to make cuts, and they all want to produce in this event. Just
So how do
because
you
of the
guys do
tuition.
that? How do you guys do that then? Do you kind of diversify, you put your eggs in different baskets kind of thing, pick a couple guys? I
Yeah,
think you
you got
said
to
that with
pick
the
four
chalk,
guys.
you have 3 chalk guys,
It's
one one
it's
horse.
for all five majors. If your
Okay.
guy wins, you get to pick him again. But if he doesn't, so like we had Scheffler at the Tour Championship, so Players Championship, so we can't take him the rest of the year. He didn't win.
Oh, really?
So you only get to pick. You only get to pick one. You only get to pick the guy once unless he wins. So like if
Oh.
let's say Rory wins tomorrow or this weekend, we get to use him again. But everybody who used him in the players, they get to use him this week. But you only get to use him twice.
So even if he wins the Masters,
They're done with him.
they're
But
done even though he won both
another.
times.
We would get another use. So
Right.
there's some and you got to find that one guy. Like we had Ludwig.
Yeah, I like
You know
Ludwig
what I mean?
over. Yeah.
That was a great pick. Only I think 20 guys have, and that's a make or break. If you got you got the win, you finish 1-2, you're probably going to have a pretty good week. It just depends on what the third and fourth guy does.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's an interesting format there. Um, Let me ask you this though, and it's really hard to bet golf. It's really hard to bet golf. If you were to bet, I mean, obviously the easy answer is going into Sunday. Where are you at position wise? But I'm going to ask you this question: say you're making the turn on Sunday, what position would you want to be in as a player to give yourself the best chance to be wearing the green jacket at the end of it all?
Oh, I, I don't know, man. That's deep. That's something you got to ask one of those guys. Get them on. I'd love to hear their answer. I
Come
don't
on,
have
you're a
one.
golfer too. You're a golfer too,
Uh,
though. You can
hey,
put
I
yourself in
mean,
their shoes.
you gotta grind, man. It's a grind. It's a 72 hole ground, and that golf course is not easy. I'm telling you to walk. Two, the 18th hole and number 10. Number 10 is straight down this hill. I walked that thing last year. I forgot. It's like walking up a sledding hill in Gaylord, Michigan. I
That's
mean,
what I heard.
it's steep, and the par threes are water, and number 11, you can't even get back to the tee box. The tee box is 100 yards from where you hit the ball out of the chute. If you notice that this weekend, I would tell your viewers or listeners, watch number 11 if you don't pay a lot of attention. There's just a lot of things when you go to the event, you appreciate what they're going through in terms of like number 11, like number 10, walking down the hill and then having to walk up the hill. But hey, you can be 3 shots behind going into the back nine, and you might win by two.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
that simple.
I'd rather be chasing than being in
And
the front.
remember what I told you about the par fives. Your winner or your top three guys, I guarantee you, four par fives, 4 times 4 is 16. Probably, the best you're going to do is 16 under. Somebody to throw an eagle. That's the ultimate. That's not going to happen. But I'll tell you right now, if your guy is 8, 9, 10, 11 under on those par fives, yeah, they're going to make some bogeys. The reason we didn't get on DeChambeau is a lot of people don't know this. He has the highest rate of high scores. He makes one or two doubles throughout the event, which is bad. Making a double in golf is painful, and I've made a ton of them.
Yeah, you don't got to tell me.
You
I
can't
got
you
I got
can't
some.
you can't make a double because a birdie just moves it back to a bogey. Where when you make a bogey, a birdie takes you back to even par, and that's how those guys think. You have to think in terms of how do I make up ground, and where am I going to make up ground when I make a mistake? And the last thing you want to be doing is chasing, because that's when people, Phil Mickelson is another great name to throw out. He's won that thing, but
Oh yeah.
he's a riverboat gambler. He likes to hit the ball through 4 or 5 trees, and have a clean shot, and he doesn't care if it doesn't make it. It's high risk, right? It's a
Yeah,
high
high
risk,
risk,
but
and
it's a
then
high
I mean,
reward if you get it through.
absolutely
So
high reward for sure. And he's a gambler, I think, on and off the course. But he kind of prides himself as being that guy. And we've missed seeing it, I think, somewhat just for the fact that he's now part of Live. But even when he was on the tour, we knew, everybody knew that he was going to be taking some risks, finding some windows up high in trees, 60, 70 feet up, clearing, high elevation obstacles. So that's kind of the name of his game. But you live or die by the sword. And in that case, it's the golf club, but you got to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
So
So
good
yeah, that's
times.
about where I am, and that's who we got. And
Okay.
enjoy the event. And I guess my final question to you is, who do you like? I ask every year. You seem like you're leaning on Zalatoris.
Yeah, I am leaning on Zalatoris. I like Zalatoris a lot, and yeah, I got to. If I was gonna put money down, it'd be on Will Zalatoris. I gotta be honest with you. But
What's
yeah,
his odds?
I haven't checked. I haven't even checked the odds yet, but I gotta think he's not in the middle of the pack, but he's kind of leaning towards the middle of the pack, just because you said there's so many guys, and I'm not looking at the odds. I'm going to dissect the odds later. I'm kind of going just off of feel, off of what I've seen in the par three contest. But I also like JT. He's playing with Scotty in the first round tomorrow, 10:15 a.m. So that's going to be a little bit of good friendly competition, I think.
Yeah.
And
No.
Scotty's been cold. Scotty's been cold. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think he three-peats,
Yeah.
but who
Well,
knows?
I'll tell you. I'll let you move forward. I um, enjoy the conversation every year. I hope all your folks that follow you and everything. Just keep an eye on my picks. You can do whatever you want with them. I will say my lovely bride jumped into one, and her picks were pretty strong. I was pretty impressed when she sent them to me. She took Xander, Scotty, Aberg, and Rory and DeChambeau. You got to pick
Wow.
five in that one. So I asked her where she got her homework from, because it sure the hell wasn't me.
Wow.
But
She must have been doing some homework late at night,
yeah,
checking
so
checking
I
everything out,
threw those
stats.
in, and it's a fun week for us, for
Oh
everybody.
man,
If you
it doesn't
love
get any
golf,
better than
this
this.
is this is it.
You know what I mean? Okay, let me ask you this. Change the subject on golf before I let you go. What do you think about State and their finish, and then guys jumping in the draft lottery, Jace Richardson, right? And then you got Trey Holloman jumping in the transfer portal. Other guys do, and Trey Holloman was your glue guy, right? Being a Michigan State Spartan and a fan of the Spartans, and even Izzo would say, he has said this in interviews. Trey was my glue guy, is my glue guy. Do you think the tradition is kind of going to the wayside with Spartan basketball, just because it seems like it's dying out? The transfer portal is rearing its
So
ugly head constantly. What the hell's happening here?
this is a time for another show.
Okay.
We could talk about this for 15 minutes.
Okay, you got it. We'll save it for another show then. It's going to be a topic that will be talked about
No,
going into the off season. So,
it's not good.
okay. Well,
I'm not happy. I'll leave it at that. It's turned into a money grab, and yeah, that's another show. I'd love to talk about that with you, because
fair
you got
enough.
you got some really good perspective with you and a couple of the other guys you have on. I'd love to hear your sense. Maybe we could do something in a couple weeks about it
Yeah.
once we see the dust settle on that.
Yeah, it's still settling,
Oh,
so it's not over yet.
I'll leave you with this thought on that. Driving home tonight, I was listening to them talk about Wisconsin. Wisconsin has the best, get this, the best portal class coming in. Is that insane?
That is.
Think about the wording behind that.
Just to even hear
It's
that
it's
being
not it's
said in a
not
sentence.
the best recruiting class. It's the best portal class.
Yeah, it's not the truth of the matter. It's the matter itself. That's the crazy part, that you even
Yeah,
have to arrange those words in that sequence to make a sentence.
yeah.
That's the crazy part. But I agree.
So, but
So
yeah. Hey, look, man. Enjoy the tournament, and you and I will be back and forth this
absolutely.
weekend. All
Thanks,
right.
Sobo. I appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
All right. Take care.
You too. Good luck with your picks.
All right, man.
All All right, man.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
See ya. Heard it here first, folks. Sobo's picks, always worth it. In the end, make sure to put some money on those. All right, I'll take some of the blame for them if they don't hit. We're going to rewind the tape and keep them honest. We're going to keep them honest when we when we see the dust settle on the Masters final, but I'm looking forward to it myself. Okay, there's a lot of, like Sobo said, there's a lot of names in here. There's a lot of names in here, a lot of great golfers, and it's really hard to pick even 5 of them. You can narrow it down as you wish, look at previous past performances, but to be honest with you, you really can't base any previous tournament on this one. It's the Masters. We said in the beginning of the show, it's the granddaddy of them all. So look at the odds, study them. We know Vegas gets to their odds in their own way. They're going to find their own way to get to those odds, to get to those numbers. And real quick, I guess while we have a couple minutes, we might as well just pull up the Masters odds. We've already explained who we like. All right. And I'm going with Will. I'm going with Will because he's due. He's due. And we know he wants to wear the green jacket. All these guys want to wear the green jacket. We understand that. We know that. Okay. And then you're comparing and contrasting stats from LIV, stats from the PGA Tour finishes. And it just becomes too much. It becomes a jumbled mess, really. So it's really it's not easy to do. I said that Scotty's been kind of cold. He's not going to three-peat. So be it. All right. He's still coming in at plus 400 as the favorite. Rory McIlroy not far behind at plus 650. John Rahm plus 1,400. Ludwig Oberg plus 1,600. Colin Morikawa plus 1,600. Xander Schauffele plus 1,800. DeChambeau plus 2,000. Justin Thomas plus 2,200. Joaquin Niemann plus 2,800. Hideki Matsuyama plus 2,800. Wow. And then Brooksy's all the way down at plus 3,000. Jordan Spieth plus 3,300. And now it's like, when do you get in the weeds like this? These are the guys I'm looking at, throwing a couple bucks on. Because if these guys hit, these guys are the ones that really want the jacket. These guys are the ones, and now you got to exclude guys like Rory, guys like Justin Thomas, guys that don't have a jacket yet, right? Guys that are looking for that jacket and haven't had it yet. But you even see Robert McIntyre in there, the Scot, in there at plus 5,500. That's not a bad odds for him. And we've seen his ability. Minwoo Lee is right there as well at plus 5,500. And my boy Will is right behind Minwoo Lee at plus 5,500 as well. So these are the pre-beginning sports odds for the Masters going forward. And we like to play the odds. Do we play in pools and things of that nature? Yes, we do. But in situations like this, and this is what I tell people about betting golf, because it's really easy to bet golf, throw a couple of bucks on somebody, or maybe throw a couple of bucks on a couple of different people. And then if one of them hits, you're probably going to be in profit, right? Depending on what your unit size is and all that. But take all that into account. And at the same time, when you bet golf, you're throwing your money away, essentially. You're throwing it to the wind, hoping that it blows back at you. And hoping you get a couple other bucks that get caught in the wind gusts that sent back your way. But unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. So what I like to do, and I've had some success doing, is going into Saturday night, so going into the Sunday round, finding the odds there, seeing the guys, and I alluded to it. I was steering Sobo a little bit just to kind of get him to say this, and he said it exactly how I expected him to. You want to be 2 or 3 strokes behind coming down the stretch on the back 9 of the round on Sunday. Okay? And it sounds crazy, but you want to be in the hunt rather than being hunted. You don't want to have another player on your heels that's just chomping at them and putting you in a bad position, all right, mentally, possibly physically in the course where you want to put your ball and whatnot. And you don't want to be in a bad spot. So you'd rather be fighting from behind. Now you'd like to be behind, tee time wise, the guy that is ahead of you. So obviously they have more holes under your belt. If it's that neck and neck, you want them to be up on you a couple strokes, maybe hole 11. You're coming in, about to make the turn. You're on 9. Maybe he's 12 under and you're 10 under. Something like that. Down 2, you got 2 holes on him. So you got 2 holes plus whatever minus whatever he's played. And you can kind of play it that way. Obviously, that's ideal. Is anything in golf ideal? No. What do we call that? We call it luck. Okay, we call it being fortunate. We call it getting a good kick. We call it getting a good bounce. So that's what golf's all about, and that's what's so beautiful about the game of golf is you cannot fabricate what you can do with your clubs. You got to go hard or go home, essentially. What are you going to do? What are the clubs going to allow you to do? How are you going to dictate what your psychological mind is telling you? Is it doubting you? Is it not aligning with your play style? So many aspects. That's why these guys, and Sobo mentioned it, that's why these guys need a sports psychologist. And these guys get paid a lot of money to do what they do. Because really, what do? More or less, they're glorified therapists. They're going to talk you off the ledge. They're going to tell you the things that you want to hear in the moments you need to hear them. So we'll leave it at that. Take those odds into account. Take Sobo's picks into account. Write them down. We'll rewind the tape once everything's finished to see how things wind up playing out. But I like Will Zalatoris. I'm going with him. Right behind him, I'd have to go with JT at plus 2,200. I like him. And at number 3, give me Ludwig Oberg because we like it. We like him. If we have to go with a 4th pick, give me the second favorite in Rory McIlroy because I think he needs a jacket just as much as all these other guys do. And he's hungry. He's been playing well. He's dialed in. And he's looking really good right now. So if he can continue that streak, I think he's got a hell of a chance this weekend. But follow it closely. We will be following it closely as well. Make sure to check us out on social media. Our link tree's in the bottom of the podcast in the description. Check us out on our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, and on Instagram at Gin Sports Network. For now, I'm John J. II with the Gin Sports Network podcast. We'll see you here next time. Have a great night.